functioning as contemplated. So I guess one of the things we have to do is learn to be forgiving of each other. So as I was beginning to say, we recommended that the African Union become a formal member of the G20, and we're glad to report that this recommendation has been accepted. Admittedly, more because some major powers supported the recommendation, and perhaps even more because it was an idea whose time had fully come. To the extent, one of the things that this does is it makes it possible for this year for us in this African context to gather insights and recommendations that can be passed on to the overall G20 summit globally. This involves communication to power countries on earth, and we're thankful to have the opportunity to engage in policy making that will help address some of the key problems that we have on earth. Now, as organizers, we're conscious of time limitations that we face. Our hope is that everyone will be conscious of the need to use time efficiently and to concentrate on practical ideas and recommendations from religious voices that can be fed into the broader G20 policymaking process. To the extent that you have individually and as groups that you have ideas that you believe deserve greater attention and development, we hope you will share those ideas here, and to the extent time is insufficient, we encourage you to write down your recommendations and send them to us. You can send them to secretariat@g20interfaith.org. We hope this time can be a time of building and strengthening relationships as all of us work together to identify initiatives that can have significant practical effects. We seek not only ideas, but ideas with impact. As G20 interfaith leaders, we are conscious of a number of priority areas that are already emerging. For example, broader engagement with emerging food crises, pursuing successful programs on climate and other environmental concerns, advancing multi-religious work on peace building, which is particularly significant in these days, addressing moral calls on debt relief, bold action to end human trafficking, and finding ways to mitigate the refugee and displaced persons crises. Now, these are just a few of the many issues that we as a global community and as the African world face. You may urge identification of other priority issues. You may have practical ideas about how some of the foregoing can be better addressed. You may have a clearer African perspective on these needs. We are in need not only of brainstorming, but of deeper policy research that will extend into coming weeks and months. We urge you to find effective ways to help us and others have genuine impact on priority needs. As a core of this process, we need not only to identify specific policy priorities, but in addition, it is vital to help global leaders understand that engagement with faith communities is itself an essential priority that holds the key to furthering countless other objectives. Thank you so much for joining with us in this enterprise. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Cole, for your call on the moral calls for Africa to be a better place, and we look forward to the research to reset our policies right.
Thank you, Professor Cole. በጣም እናመሰግናለን። የጂ20 ኢንተርፌስ ፎረም አሶሲዬሽን ፕሬዝዳንት ናቸው። ይሄን ፕሮግራም ወደዚህ ወደ አዲስ አበባ እንዲመጡ ከኛ ተቋም ጋር በቅርብ እየተነጋገርን ፈቅደው እንዲመጣ ያደረጉ እሳቸው ናቸው። አንድ ያመስግኑልኝ። እናመሰግናለን ፕሮፌሰር። ከዚህ በመቀጠል በፕሮግራም ላይ የተወሰነ ለውጥ አድርገናል። ስለዚህ አሁን ከዚህ ቀጥሎ የአፍሪካ ህብረት ተወካይ ንግግር እንዲያደርጉ በአክብሮት እንጋብዛለን።
So we are changing a little bit the program where we are having the representative from the African Union to come and share with us.
Good morning. I'm going to stand on existing protocols. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you warm greetings on behalf of His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, and the Citizens and Diaspora Directorate. It is my utmost pleasure to have you all here as we celebrate the Golden Rule Day together in commemorating World Interfaith Harmony Week. Today, we are gathered to honor and promote interfaith issues in Africa to foster peace, security, development, and preservation of the environment, as well as to counter hate speech and violent extremism. Last year, we had these inaugural celebrations at the African Union Complex, and one of the recommendations was to have the AU as a member of the G20. It pleases me to inform you that as of last year, the AU is a proud member of the G20 family. I am heartened by the progress we have made, but I know that there is still much more work to be done. We live in a world that is too often divided by fear and misunderstandings, where differences are used as a wedge to separate people rather than a source of strength. I am confident that events like this can help us overcome these barriers as we discuss for the next 2 days. In conclusion, let us continue to seek out opportunities to build bridges of understanding between people of different faiths and cultures. Also, we should not forget that despite our differences, we are all members of the same human family, united by our common aspirations for a better world. Finally, I'm wishing all of us a fruitful deliberation and hope our recommendations will be a reality for a better and more peaceful and harmonious world. May peace prevail on earth. I thank you.
እናመሰግናለን የአፍሪካ ህብረት ተወካይ ስላቀረቡልን መልእክት።
Thank you, Sister Hazel, for those warm messages, and also the fact that now the AU is a full member of the G20. We now have heard from the organizers, and they've welcomed us. Thank you. Now you can settle and be, at home because you've been welcomed officially. But then we need to open this meeting officially as well. And we shall have the Minister of Peace, the State Minister of Peace of Ethiopia, doing that for us. Yes, so.
እናመሰግናለን። ሁላችሁም የያዛችሁት የድምጽ መተርጎሚያ መሳሪያ መስራት ጀምሯል። ስለዚህ አሁን መጠቀም ትችላላችሁ ማለት ነው። ከዚህ በመቀጠል የኢፌዴሪ የሰላም ሚኒስትር ዴኤታ የሆኑት ክቡር ዶክተር ኸይረዲን ተዘራ ወደ መድረኩ መጥተው የመክፈቻ ንግግር እንዲያደርጉ በታላቅ አክብሮት ጋብዛለሁ።
እንደምን አደራችሁ። ሰላም አለይኩም። ክብራን የሃይማኖት ተቋማት ጉባኤ የበላይ ጠባቂዎች፣ እዚህ ፊት ለፊት የማያችሁ ታላላቅ አባቶች፣ ክቡር ቀሲስ ቱጋን ታጋይ የኢትዮጵያ ሃይማኖት ተቋማት ጉባኤ ዋና ጸሐፊ፣ ክቡር ፕሮፌሰር ኮል የG20 ኢንተርፌስ ፎረም አሶሲዬሽን ፕሬዚደንት፣ ክብርት ኒኮል ስተርሊንግ የስቲርሊንግ ፋውንዴሽን ምክትል ፕሬዝዳንት፣ ክቡራን አምባሳደሮች፣ ሚኒስትሮች፣ ታላላቅ የሃይማኖት አባቶች ከመላው ዓለም ለዚህ ታላቅ መድረክ እዚህ የሁላችንም የሰው ዘር መነሻ በሆነችው ኢትዮጵያ በተለይ ደግሞ የሁሉም አብርሃማዊ የሆኑ ሃይማኖቶች በጥንት ጀምራ የተቀበለች ጁዳይዝምን፣ ክርስትናን፣ እስልምናን ተቀብላ በሰላም ባኖረችና ያኖረች ባለች የመነሻችን የጥንታዊ ዓለም ታሪካችሁ ባለቤት እናት ወደ ሆነችው ውድ ኢትዮጵያ በሰላም መጣችሁ ማለት ፈልጋለሁ። Then I will deliver my speech first in Amharic than in English. I think you may allow me. ሰላም ትልቅ ሰላም ወሳኝ ነው። ለእናንተ መንገር አያስፈልግም። የሰላም ጉዳይ ላይ ሁላችንም ስንሰራ አሁን እዚህ የሁሉም እምነት ተወካዮች ባጭሩ መላው ዓለም በዚህ አዳራሽ ውስጥ እንገኛለን። ብዙ ነገር የሚያገናኝን ነገር አለ ማለት ነው። በተለይ ሃይማኖቶች ዋነኛ ስራቸው የወዲያኛውን ዓለም በሰላም ለመግባት እዚህ ዓለም በሰላም በፍቅር አብሮ መኖር እንዳለብን እንደሚያስተምሩ ወርቃማው ሕግ ምን እንደሚል የሁሉም እምነቶች ላይ ከአብርሃማዊ እምነቶች ውጪ በሆኑትም ጭምር ይሄ ወርቃማው ሕግ እንዳለ ቀደም ጻናቶቹ አሳይተውናል። እንዲህ አይነት ጉዳዮች ወደፊት ከመጡ ሚኒስትሪም ካረግናቸው ዓለማችን የሰላም እሴት ግንባታና የሰላም መኖሪያ እንድትሆን የሚያስችላት በቂ ሀብት በቂ ፖቴንሻል አለን ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ እንዲህ አይነት ፎረሞች በዚህ መልኩ መገናኘታችንና የጋራ የሆኑትን የሚያገናኙን ጉዳዮችን የበለጠ ለማዳበር ከሰራን እዚህ ላይ የተጠቀሱት የጥላቻ ንግግሮች፣ ሁከትና መጤጠልነት የሚሉ ዜኖፎቢክ የሆኑ ቴንደንሲዎች እንዲቀረፉ በማድረግ ደረጃ ላይ በተለይ የእምነት አባቶች በሁሉም ሀገር የምንገኝ የእምነት አባቶች ቁልፍ ሚና እንዳለን እንገነዘባለን። እኛ እንደ ሰላም ሚኒስቴር ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን ጥንታዊ የእምነት ሀገር መሆኗ ብቻ ሳይሆን አንዳንዶች እምነቶች ከዛም በዘለለ የየህዝቦቻችን የማንነት አካል እንደሆኑ ቁልፍ አድርገን በማመን ከእምነት ተቋማት ጋር የሰላም ሚኒስቴር በተለይ ከሃይማኖት ተቋማት ጉባኤ ጋር በጣም ተቀራርበን እየሰራን እንገኛለን። በቅርቡም ክቡር ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትር ዶክተር አብይ አህመድ ከሁሉም የእምነት አባቶች ጋር ተከታዮቻቸው ጋር በሰላም በአገራዊ አንድነትና ወደፊት ኢትዮጵያ መድረስ ባለባት ቁልፍ አካታች የሆነ ብልጽግና ዙሪያ በማራቅ ሳይሆን በመቀራረብ የመንግስት ሚና ብቻ ሳይሆን የሁሉም የሃይማኖት አባቶችና የእምነት ተቋማት ሚና ነው በማለት ሰፊ ጊዜ ወስደው ውይይት አድርገው የጋራ መግባባት ተደርሶ በጋራ እየሰራን እንደሆነ በዚህ አጋጣሚ ለመግለጽ እወዳለሁ። ከዚህ በተጨማሪ ኢትዮጵያ ጥንታዊ ሀገር ናት። የኢትዮጵያ ኦርቶዶክስ ተዋሕዶ ቤተክርስቲያን በተለይ እምነቱ ከአራተኛው ክፍለ ዘመን ጀምሮ ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ በሰላም ገብቶ የበርካታ ኢትዮጵያውያን የእምነት ብቻ ሳይሆን የማንነት አንዱ አካል ሆኖ እየሄደ ይገኛል። ጁዳይዝምም እንደዛው። እስልምና ነብዩ መሐመድ መካ ላይ እስልምና ከተነሳ በኋላ መዲና ሳይገባ ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ የገባና ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ በሰላም ገብቶ የኢትዮጵያውያን የማንነት መገለጫ ሆኖ ለረጅም ጊዜ የሆነ አብሮ እየሄደ ይገኛል። ስለዚህ ኢትዮጵያ እነዚህን ጥንታዊ እምነቶች ለእምነት መከታያ ብቻ ሳይሆን ሙዚየም ሆና እየጠበቀች ለቀጣዩ ጄኔሬሽን እያስተላለፈች ያለች ሀገር ጥንታዊ ሀገር መሆኗን በዚህ አጋጣሚ ለመግለጽ እንወዳለን። ነገር ግን ከመንግስትና ከሃይማኖት ያሉት ግንኙነቶች 1966 አካባቢ በኋላ ቢለያዩም ይሄንን መርህ ባለው መልኩ እንዴት አብሮ መስራት አለብን፣ እንዴት አብሮ መሄድ አለብን ከማለት አኳያ የሰላም ሚኒስቴር መንግስት በሰጠው አቅጣጫ መነሻነት ከእምነት አባቶች ጋር በጋራ በመሆን በቅርቡ የሃይማኖት ህግ ወይም ሴኩላሪዝም ለማውጣት ግብዓት የማሰባሰብ ስራ እያካሄደ ነው የሚገኘው። እምነት ለገነት ብቻ ሳይሆን ገነት ከመሄዳችን በፊት እዚህ በምንኖርበት ዓለም ውስጥ ቁልፍ ሚና ያለው በሰላም ግንባታ በእድገት የተለያየ ሚና እንዳለው መንግስታችን በቅጡ ይገነዘባል። ለዚህም ልዩ ቦታ ሰጥቶ እምነቶችን እያከበረ እምነቶች ሲጠናከሩ የእምነት ተቋማት ሲጠናከሩ ሀገር ትጠነክራለች፣ ጠንካራ ሀገረ መንግስት ሲመሰረታል የሚል ቁልፍ እና ጽኑ እምነት ስላለው እምነቶች ጋር ያሉትን መከፋፈል የሚመስሉ ጉዳዮችን በልዩነት ተፈቶ ጠንካራ የተቋም ባለቤት እንዲሆኑ በማድረግ ከመንግስት በተለለ ክቡር ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትሩ በልዩ ሁኔታ ከኢትዮጵያ ኦርቶዶክስ ሃይማኖት አባቶች ጋራ ከኢትዮጵያ እስልምና እምነት አባቶች ጋራ እንደዚሁም ከወንጌላውያን አባቶች ጋራ በጋራ በመሆን ጠንካራ ተቋማት እንዲፈጠሩ ቁልፍ ሚና፣ ቁልፍ ተግባር፣ ቁልፍ ስራ እየሰራ ይገኛል። በዚህ አጋጣሚ ለመንግስታችን ልዩ ክብር አለንና እናንተም የእምነት አባቶች በዚህ አጋጣሚ እንደው ምስጋና ብታቀርቡ በታላቅ አክብሮት ጠይቃቸዋለሁ። በመጨረሻ እዚህ የመጣችሁባት ኢትዮጵያ በጣም በመታምረው አዲስ አበባ የሁለት ቀን ቆይታችሁ በተለይ guests from all over the world በጣም ያማረ ደስ ያለ ቆይታችሁ ደስ የሚል ከኢትዮጵያውያን ትምህርት የምትወስዱበትና ይሄ ውይይት እስካሁን የተገኙትን ድሎች የበለጠ በሰላም ለማስጌድ በጣም ተጨማሪ ሐሳቦች ይገኙበታል ብለን እናምናለን። ያማረ ደስ የሚል ቆይታ እንዲሆንላችሁ እመኛለሁ። ገለቶማ let me now deliver my speech briefly in English. Excellencies, the patrons of Interreligious Council of Ethiopia, Excellencies, religious leaders, His Excellency Qasis Tagai Taddele, Secretary General to Interreligious Council of Ethiopia, His Excellency Professor Cole, Founding Director for International Center for Law and Religious Studies at Brigham Young University and President of G20 International Interfaith Forum, Her Excellency Nicole, Vice President and Chief Relations Officer to Sterling Foundation, Excellencies, representatives of EU Chairperson, Excellencies, ambassadors, diplomats, all protocols observed. A very warm good morning and welcome to Ethiopia. Esteemed guests, religious leaders, peace builders, all advocates for a more just and peaceful world. I'm honored to stand before you today as this important gathering, co-organized by the Interreligious Council of Ethiopia, the United Religious Initiative, URI Africa, the G20 Interfaith Forum Association, the African Union Interfaith Dialogue Forum. I extend my deepest gratitude to these esteemed organizations, along with all other dedicated partners who have made this conference possible. We stand, ladies and gentlemen and the excellencies, we stand at a crossroads. The winds of change are upon us, marked by a climate in crisis, democratic institutions under strain, the yearning for societies where human dignity and rights are the cornerstone of policy and action. It is in this very moment that the mandate and work of religious peace building shines ever brighter. For generations, faith communities have served as anchors of peace. They have fostered dialogue, bridged divides, offered solace in times of hardship. Today, this call is more urgent than ever. The climate crisis threatens the very foundation of our societies, displacing people and jeopardizing resources. Democracies, once beacons of hope, face challenges that erode trust and stability. And the dream of just societies, where every individual is valued and empowered, seems ever more distant. Yet, in the middle of these challenges, there is reason for hope. Religious peace building offers a powerful path forward. It leverages the moral authority of faith to bridge divides, promote empathy, inspire collective action for a green legacy that secures sustainable peace. Faith communities have a unique capacity to speak to the hearts and minds of people, fostering understanding, cooperation across ethnic, cultural, social, and environmental divides. Here in Ethiopia, we have witnessed firsthand the transformative power of religious peace building. The Ethiopian government, in collaboration with the Minister of Peace, has taken exemplary action in this regard. They have established interfaith councils that bring together religious leaders from diverse traditions to address human challenges, including the critical issue of environmental stewardship. These councils have played a crucial role in promoting peace and reconciliation, particularly in conflict-affected regions, while simultaneously advocating for the importance of planting trees, conserving water, and protecting natural resources. Ethiopia's recent Green Legacy Initiative, a nationwide tree planting campaign, exemplifies the powerful link between religious peace building and environmental action. Faith leaders have been instrumental in mobilizing communities, emphasizing the connection between a healthy environment and a peaceful society. This initiative not only combats deforestation, but also fosters a sense of shared purpose and collective responsibility for the future. Dear Excellencies, the Minister of Peace further strengthens this crucial work by facilitating religious dialogue efforts at both the national and regional levels. These dialogues bring together religious leaders from across the spectrum to discuss pressing issues, foster understanding, and promote peaceful coexistence among all members of society. This dedication is interfaith operation is truly commendable. for their unwavering support in making these vital dialogues possible. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to the Sterling Foundation. Their unreserved financial support has been instrumental in creating a platform for religious leaders to come together, build trust, and work collaboratively towards a more peaceful and sustainable Ethiopia. Building on this strong foundation, the Ethiopian government is taking a significant step towards by exploring the introduction of religious law. This law aims to assure peaceful coexistence, tolerance, equality among different religious followers, further strengthening the delicate balance within a religious diverse nation. It also seeks to harmonize religious matters with the principles of federalism, ensuring respect for the autonomy of religious institutions while upholding the Ethiopian constitution. This proposed law is currently under careful review, with the Ethiopian government hosting multiple consultative workshops to gather feedback from religious leaders, legal experts, and various stakeholders across society. This inclusive approach ensures that the final law reflects the needs and concerns of all Ethiopians. These religious-based peace-building efforts directly contribute to the African Union's, I quote, silencing the gun, quote, agenda by addressing the root cause of conflict. In this regard, religious leaders often have deep community ties and understand the underlying grievances that fuel conflict. And by fostering dialogue and promoting tolerance, they can help address these root causes and prevent violence from erupting. The proposed law, will also help us promote social cohesion. In this regard, faith communities can play a vital role in building bridges between different groups and fostering a sense of shared identity. Hence, this cohesion is essential for sustainable peace. Thirdly, the law will provide moral authority. In this regard, religious leaders can lend their moral authority to the cause of peace, encouraging communities to renounce violence and hate speech and embrace peaceful conflict resolution. Fourth, it will also legitimize peace processes. In this regard, we believe that faith-based organizations can be valuable partners in peace negotiations and reconciliation efforts, and hence their involvement can help legitimize these processes and ensure they are inclusive of all stakeholders. The Ethiopian government's effort, along with similar initiatives across Africa, can serve as a powerful example of how religion-based peace building can contribute to a continent free from scourge of armed conflict. However, the work is far from over. We must strive to deepen interfaith collaboration. In this regard, let's create platform for religious leaders to share best practices, exchange knowledge, and develop joint initiative for peace building and environmental stewardship. Let's also struggle to address climate change. In this regard, we believe that faith communities must be at the forefront of advocating for sustainable practices and promoting environmental stewardship. Let's also strive to empower the very productive part of our demography, which are the youth. Let's empower them. Let's equip young people with the tools and resources they need to be agents of peace and environmental action within their communities and beyond. Let us also strive to promote just policies. Here, religious leaders have a moral imperative to advocate for policies that uphold human rights, address inequalities, promote social justice while safeguarding the environment for future generations. As we move forward, let's draw inspiration from the wisdom of our faith traditions and our shared responsibility for the earth. With respecting the golden rule that the children recite for us, just allow me to quote from the Quran and the Hadith. And let's remember two quotes about peace and justice by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I quote, "The servants of the most merciful are those who walk upon the earth easily And when the ignorant address them harshly, they say words of peace. Surah Al-Quran 25:63. And in the Hadith Al-Bukhari, Allah will not be merciful to those who are not merciful to humankind. Together, through interfaith cooperation, we can transform this vision into reality. We can build bridges of understanding, cultivate a culture of peace, and create just societies where every person can live with dignity, hope, and leaving a green legacy for a sustainable future. I wish you a pleasant stay in this beautiful and African capital, Addis Ababa. I thank you. Galatom ma shukran. Amsagnallo.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Indeed, faith communities have the opportunity to speak to the heart of individuals so that they can be able to promote social justice effectively.
Namasagnallan, Kubur Dr. Karen Tazara, የኢፌዴሪ የሰላም ሚኒስቴር የሰላም ሚኒስትር ዴኤታ ናቸው። ሁሉን መልእክት እጅግ በጣም እናመሰግናለን። ከዚህ በመቀጠል የዚህ ሀገራዊ ዓለም አቀፋዊ ኮንፈረንስ ዓላማዎችን በተመለከተ አጫጭር መልእክቶች ይቀርባሉ።
So at this moment we are going to delve into the objectives of this workshop, and who other than Catherine Marshall, our sister, who is the Vice President of the Interfaith Forum and also the Executive Director of World Faith Development Dialogue from the United States. You're welcome.
እናመሰግናለን። የጂ20 ኢንተርፌስ ፎረም አሶሲዬሽን ኤክስኪዩቲቭ ዳይሬክተር ናቸው። ስለዚህ የፕሮግራሙን ዓላማ ያብራሩልናል ማለት ነው። በመቀጠል ወደሚቀጥሉት ፕሮግራሞች እናልፋለን።
My mission today is first to add my welcome, my gratitude, and all protocols observed. My personal joy in being back in Ethiopia after a long time gives me great pleasure. So my questions, the questions I'm trying to address are, why G20? Why faith? Why interfaith? Why the AU? And why Africa? And in doing so, trace a journey that has brought us to April 2024 in Addis Ababa, and this conference, which takes place during an extraordinarily turbulent and challenging time for us all. So first, the G20. The G20 is part of the global governance system. It was created in 1999 with a crisis mandate, and in some sense, we're now living in a mega crisis or a perma-crisis. So in that sense, the G20 has a continuing mandate and agenda. And it had an especially critical role in 2008-2009.
የበለጠ አካታች የሆነበት ምክንያት ለምንድን ነው? አንዳንዶች ጂ2 ይሉታል፣ ጂ1 ከጀነራል አሴምብሊው ይልቅ በቀላሉ ለማስተዳደር ይቀላል፣ አነስ ያለ በመሆኑ በቪቶ አይመራም። እንደ ሴኪሪቲ ካውንስሉ በአመታት ደግሞ ስልጣኑ
crisis management to the full Sustainable Development Goal agenda, and thus the full agenda that we call it. It has some advantages, which include the rotating chairmanship. It has no secretariat, and it has in 2024 Brazil as the host and the president. And the leaders, everything is building now towards the meeting of leaders in November 2024. So that's why we have focused on the G20 as one of the powerful instruments within the global governance system. So today's G20 includes a large and rather complex constellation that includes the member states, of course, their leadership, but also engagement groups for different constituencies that include 13 different engagement groups, youth, business, civil society, etc., but also ministerials and also special task forces, for example, to deal with corruption and with trafficking and with food issues. Those are part of the G20 process. But throughout its history, there has been one absent partner, which has been the community of religious leaders, religious actors of many kinds, who play such critical roles. This is, in some sense, a gap in the global governance system, inclusion of religious voices. And that is where the G20 Interfaith comes in. The G20 Interfaith Forum has operated since 2014, in other words, a 10-year anniversary. It first assembled and met in Australia in 2014, and it has grown and expanded since from what was, to a large extent, an academic, intellectual, bipartisan effort of the G20 to a body whose ambition is to bring the distinctive efforts of a network of networks of religious actors into the G20 process, and thus into the global agenda-setting process. From the beginning of the G20, from 1999, there has been a clear recognition that Africa had, compared with its importance, both in G20 affairs and generally, a very small voice. South Africa is the only African state that has been a member of the G20, and that has led to the continuing effort to broaden Africa's role and Africa's agenda, and therefore the exciting new step where the African Union is a full member of the G20, and therefore represents and carries the voice, the concerns, the hopes, the dreams, and the anger of African communities in global affairs. So Africa clearly is vital, and the G20 is conscious of that. And we're seeing in 2020 a host of issues that have particular concern for Africa. The issues of peace that we have just heard about, the issues of forced migration, the issues of violence within communities, issues of hunger, the enormous humanitarian needs that face Africa today, all of the issues of the rainforest, the issue of changing climate, drought, floods, etc. All of those are high on the global agenda, but have particular significance for Africa. So in this conference, we are guided, and we'll hear more from my colleague Rodrigo Alves in a moment, by Brazil's agenda for 2024, which, to put it very simply, is about poverty and hunger, about sustainability, including action on climate, and on the global governance structures and their injustices and the ideas of where they will move. With that, what we hope to bring is the distinctive and priority agendas of religious communities. And many of these are very clear. Action on Africa's debt burdens, action on the hunger and humanitarian needs, action for youth, action for women. All of these are part of the interreligious agendas that we've heard described earlier today. So we come to this conference with great hope in a listening mode to hear and to understand the priority issues for this extraordinary, enormous continent whose needs and whose dreams and whose potential are so much at the forefront of what we will see for the global agenda in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Sister Catherine, for highlighting the G20 and its is and also its history, where it started from South Africa. Now we have the whole of the African Union. I think we should clap for ourselves. We've moved from somewhere. I would also want to implore everyone to put away a little bit your phones and listen, because the meeting is beginning to even be exciting, and I can see all of you on your phones, and yet we are going to hear very important messages, and I don't want you to miss those ones.
እናመሰግናለን። በመቀጠል ተጨማሪ የኮንፈረንሱን ኦብጀክቲቭ በተመለከተ መልእክት ይቀርባል። ፕሮፌሰር ሮድሪጎ አልቬስ ቼር ኦፍ G20 ኢንተርፌስ ፎረም የብራዚል ኮሚቴ የኢንተርፌስ ፎረም ሊቀመንበር ናቸው። እሳቸው ያቀርቡልናል።
Yes, we are going to have Professor Rodrigo, the chair of the G20 Interfaith Forum from Brazil. He is also an associate professor for Faculty of Law of the Federal University of Uberlândia, Brazil. You're most welcome.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure and honor to join this important gathering in this vibrant, beautiful capital of Ethiopia. This is a unique opportunity and a momentous occasion for dialogue and collaboration among various groups and sectors from different parts of Africa and the world. Religious communities and interfaith actors have an important role to play in the promotion of peaceful coexistence, human dignity, development, preservation of environment, and to counter hate speech, violence, and xenophobia. These issues are closely related with the Brazilian priorities for the G20. The Brazilian presidency of the G20 started in 2023, and since then the G20 Interfaith Forum have been looking for ways to contribute to the advancement of the agenda proposed by the Brazilian government. Its vision is to build a just world and a sustainable planet, focusing on three priorities: social inclusion and the fight against hunger and poverty, energy transitions and the promotion of sustainable development, and reform of global governance institutions. As a group of the largest world economies, which now includes the African Union, the G20 has the responsibility to contribute to the mitigation of the existential challenges and complex issues humanity is currently facing. Distinguished participants, religious actors from the global south, in particular from Africa and Latin America, are in a special position to bring to the G20 process perspectives from our shared history, experiences, and interests. The discussions and reflections at these events can certainly contribute to advance the priorities of the G20 Brazilian presidency, which has adopted an inclusive approach to engage civil society through the G20 Social in a consultative capacity. The G20 interfaith process in Brazil gladly welcomes the African interfaith and intercultural views to promote peace, justice, human rights, and sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rodrigo, for that welcome.
Okay, ከዚህ በመቀጠል ሁለቱ ያቀረቡልን የኮንፈረንሱን ዓላማ ያይዘው ነው። የጂ20 ኢንተርፌስ ፎረም የቀጣይ አዘጋጅ ብራዚል ነች። ስለዚህ የብራዚል ተወካይ ልክቱን ያቀርቡልን ከዚህ ዝግጅት አንፃር ነው። በመቀጠል የሪፍሌክሽንስ ወይም የባለፉት አመታትና አሁን ደግሞ ያለው መድረኩ ምን ይመስላል የሚለውን ሪፍሌክሽን ይሆናል የምንሰማው። የተለያዩ የሃይማኖት መሪዎች እና የእምነት መሪዎች ባላቸው እንትን ላይ የራሳቸውን ነጸብራቅ ወይም ሪፍሌክሽን ያደርጋሉ ማለት ነው። ከዚህ በመቀጠል ዶክተር ዶዋሊ ዋሮ ዘካሪያ ቸርፐርሰን አፍሪካ ዩኒየን ኢንተርፌት ዲያሎግ ፎረም ስትሪንግ ኮሚቴ ነው። የአፍሪካ ህብረት የዲያሎግ ፎረም ቸርፐርሰን ተው ንግግር ያደርጉልናል። እሳቸውን እንሰማለን።
So this is our last session for this morning, and we can't go without having reflections from our esteemed leaders. And before, the first one to do that is Chief Dr. Dolly Vura, who is the chairperson, African Union Interfaith Dialogue Forum Steering Committee, Minister of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs of Ghana.
It is humbling, Excellencies, distinguished guests, I stand on all existing protocols. Good morning, esteemed colleagues. It is indeed a privilege to address you today in the vibrant city of Addis Ababa, the political capital of Africa. As we gather to commemorate the Golden Rule Day and discuss the role of faith leaders in promoting harmony during the World Interfaith Harmony Week. On the 5th of April 2024, 700 organizations in 165 countries came together to observe the Golden Rule Day despite challenges of war, strife, and natural disasters that afflict various regions. We reaffirm our commitment to treating others as we wish to be treated. We reaffirmed this principle, rooted in the teachings of different faith traditions, underscore the importance of empathy, compassion, and mutual respect in promoting peace and harmony in our communities. In a world interestingly marked by division, conflict, and inequality, the Golden Rule serves as a beacon of hope and compassion. It reminds us of our shared humanity and the importance of empathy, kindness, and respect in all our interactions. As we reflect on the significance of this day, let us draw inspirations from the timeless teaching of our revered religious leaders, whose examples like these continue to guide us towards compassion, generosity, and unity. Jesus Christ, through his selfless act of multiplying bread to feed thousands, demonstrated boundless power of love and compassion, transcending societal divisions and embracing all in need. Similarly, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his final sermon at Arafat, emphasized the principles of brotherhood, solidarity, and justice, urging his followers to treat one another with kindness and respect. Across diverse cultures and traditions, the essence of Golden Rule resonates, guiding us to live in harmony with one another and with the natural world. In Hinduism, the principle of ahimsa teaches us to treat all living beings with kindness and compassion, recognizing the interconnectedness of all life. The teachings of Buddhism emphasize the importance of loving, kindness, and empathy towards all emotional beings, promoting a sense of interconnectedness and mutual respect. In our pursuit for peace and unity, interfaith leaders play a pivotal role in bridging divides and promoting dialogue. Through collaborative effort, we have made a tangible difference in various areas, including, but not limited, one, peace building and conflict resolution, prevention of electoral violence, humanitarian aid and development, environmental stewardship, healthcare, and public health. As we celebrate the Golden Rule, let us reflect on how we can embody this principle in our daily lives through small acts of kindness, listening with open heart, or standing in solidarity with those in need. Inspired, therefore, by the tenet of the Golden Rule, we humbly add our voices to international, regional, and state actors, calling our nation states at war of any form to refrain from violence. We call on these states to reflect on the harm caused by their respective actions and evaluation on the Golden Rule adopted by religious faith that exists all over the globe. Excellencies, and to the leaders of our world, the Golden Rule is very important to our dealings with each other, be it trade and commerce, economic, diplomatic, or national security. It represents timeless principles of empathy, kindness, mutuality that are essential for fostering harmony and among states, and ultimately to economic, cultural backgrounds. We employ world leaders to embrace the Golden Rule, which we believe can lead us more compassionate and just actions towards each other, and thereby fostering peace, existence, and striving of our interlinked societies, businesses, and mutual interests. In conclusion, let us reaffirm our commitment to living the Golden Rule and applying its principles in our roles as interfaith leaders. By promoting peace, tolerance, and compassion, we contribute to building a more just and musical world for future generations. Excellency, as we celebrate the Golden Rule today, let us remember that we are all interconnected, bound by our shared humanity and our collective responsibility to nurture our planet and promote common good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief, for your affirmation of the Golden Rule. We are going now to hear from Mr. Abdullah Man Ismail, the Executive Director of the Interreligious Council of Kenya.
Thank you. This one. Thank you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, most merciful, most beneficent. And Alhamdulillah, wa nusalli ala Rasulillah Mustafa Muhammad ibn Abdullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I salute and make salutations to the Prophet of Islam, Allah's Prophet, Muhammad, and all the other messengers, Jesus, Moses, and all the rest. I want to stand here. I stand here before this eminent audience, distinguished audience, representing the Interreligious Council of Kenya, which is part of our faith communities across the world. The Interreligious Council of Kenya is an umbrella body that brings all the communities, bodies, and all the faith communities in Kenya are either directly members or indirectly members of these 9. But this morning, as I stand before all of you in this esteemed audience of great eminence, to make some reflections on the role of faith leaders in shaping national and international discourses, I am not going to speak about religion and religiosity per se, and the inward-looking perspectives of our rich and diverse faith traditions, including my very own religion of Islam, or Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Confucianism, and all the great faiths around the world. Rather, I will confine my remarks to our own experiences. As I do that, I may make scriptural references in a few cases as may be relevant or necessary. I am also conscious of the interfaith nature of this eminent audience, but also my role as Secretary General or Executive Director, which are used interchangeably for that office title holder, of Interreligious Council or organization. Besides the beautiful and rich faith traditions that we all ascribe to, and great scriptures which shape our individual, family, community, and national character based on good morals, practices, and good individual and corporate leadership and citizenship, and beyond the minbar and the pulpits, where religious leaders on a day-to-day basis provide guidance. We also need to understand, and that is the essence of interfaith, that beyond those spaces, sacred spaces, the pulpit and the minbar and other spaces that we go to on Fridays and Sundays and other days, that we also share. There are other things that bind us as people of faith and the human fraternity. We share various spaces. We also share various resources. The first being Mother Earth and the resources and endowments that have been bequeathed to us by God Almighty, for which we have been put in trust for our reasonable and responsible use, but also put to us in trust to hold it for future generations. We are diverse in our faith and religious beliefs, race, gender, social status. In the Quranic texts, it is mentioned that we have created you, that is us. So that we have created you into nations and tribes, so that you may be able to recognize each other and appreciate each other. That is God's wisdom in terms of our diversity. With all the challenges that we find, for instance, another Quranic verse speaks to the fact that there is no compulsion in religion. God did not envision a situation where we will be compelling each other to take up certain faiths. And therefore, a verse of the Quran speaks to the, if I recite it, says, La ikraha fi din. There shall be no compulsion in religion. So when you see radicalization and terror on the basis of faith, you just wonder which religion that represents. And lastly, from the Quranic traditions, We are told, even as we go and do da'wah, when Christianity is evangelizing and calling people on the path of religion and the path of thy Lord, it says there's an ayah of the Quran which talks about ud'u fi sabili rabbika bil hikma wal maw'idatil hasana. Even as you do that, you call people unto the path of thy Lord with wisdom and good words. That's what our faiths tell us to do, not compel people. Unfortunately, though, that doesn't make sense to some people. As interfaith leaders, guided by our most beautiful holy scriptures, we start by using scriptures to guide our actions and our faith to peaceful and harmonious and peaceful coexistence. Appreciating that whereas we are different and diverse as God had desired for us to be, if God had decided that we all become Christians or Catholics, we would be, but He didn't. We also need to be alive to the fact that we share common spaces, common resources, but we also have common challenges and common aspirations as a people. And to define these common spaces, we have the same Mother Earth. That's the space that God put us. He didn't put Christians or Catholics or evangelicals or Orthodox Church in different spaces. We all live in this earth. We have common resources that God has given us. The air that we breathe, the water that we drink from and utilize, and many other resources. We also have common aspirations. We all want to live in good health. We all want to live in peace. We all want to live in freedom. Freedom from very many things, as has been described in the Fundamental Human Rights Declaration document, which is now in its 76th year. So, bearing on these factors that I have said, we look at what do we do beyond our pulpits and minbar. For religious leaders, we realize the calling is beyond this, and therefore using the scriptures, we tell people why diversity needs to be understood. Diversity in all its forms and manifestations. At the national level, at the societal level, at the family level, gender, social status, religion, race, these are diversities that we need to appreciate. We also, we call upon, as interfaith leaders, to explain to people a lot of basic things that we take for granted. People do not understand, and very educated people. And I will give a few examples as I conclude. We have very many things that bind us, beyond the shared resources and shared aspirations. Even our own faiths have got very many similarities and things that bind us. When I listen to the Christians doing their daily Lord's Prayer, I look at that and I reflect on Surah Al-Fatiha, and I realize the similarities. And this is something they do on a daily basis. I look at the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi and the goodness in it, and I see my faith as a Muslim in the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. Let me now speak about how then do we manage these things. You will be surprised that not many people from different faiths have been to each other's places of worship. But this is not our faith traditions. Jesus didn't do that. He called upon everybody. So did Moses. So did Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the masjid, he called on people of different faiths and hosted them. And you will find that Muslims, speaking for Muslims, and Christians, and also Hindus and others, they have never been to inside of a church or a mosque. And so we try to bring people. One day, very recently, and Apostle Ian from the Church of Jesus Christ will realize, we held a function at the Church of Jesus Christ in Nairobi with Muslim students from different schools. And it was for the first time they were inside a church. And these are young secondary school students. And they were looking at the altar. They had been given places to pray. And amazing. And you can imagine their spirit. And how that gives us a bond. Religious leaders and religious organizations are doing an amazing job. In my own country now, moving away from that, in some of the areas, they were the de facto providers of essential services, education, health, and so forth. But beyond that, in times of challenge, and elections from the country that I have come from, like many other places, is a very emotive issue that brings conflict. And every time there is an election crisis, religious leaders step in. In 2007, when we had a crisis, a post-election crisis, religious leaders stepped in, and when they couldn't manage to quell, they invited external guarantors in the names of the eminent persons, former presidents from Africa, to come and help us. And that was stabilized. In just the recent elections, religious leaders used what you call shuttle diplomacy to talk to the various senior leaders, telling them this country is beyond you. Please go to court and abide by the rules. Going to the streets and calling for violence is not an option. And that helped calm the situation. Lastly, as I sit down, beyond national discourses, which are very important, the democratic process and so on, and all the essential services, there is a new science that is emerging, which is religious diplomacy. And this, the other day I was in the US and we were talking to professors at Georgetown University and said, quite interesting. We need to have a chair of religious diplomacy because that's a new field that can deal with a lot, because the normal conventional diplomacy is not taking us to where we want. It helps, but it is not. So a complementary field of diplomacy by religious leaders. The Ukrainian Orthodox Church visited us and they were explaining to us the Ukrainian crisis and how their people are suffering. And they thanked us as Kenyans for the statements that were made by our representative. And I'm not talking politics here, I'm just talking about religious diplomacy at the UN Security Council when we sat there. And the Russian Orthodox Church visited our neighboring country and speaking to them the Russian perspective. If we do things well, we may be able to tamper some of the very difficult challenges. Let me stop there because of the other speakers behind me. Thank you very much.
እናመሰግናለን። አብዱራህማን እስማኤል ኤክስኪዩቲቭ ዳይሬክተር የኬንያ የሃይማኖት ተቋማት ጉባኤ ዋና ስራ አስፈጻሚ ናቸው። እሳቸውን እጅግ በጣም እናመሰግናለን። ከዚህ በመቀጠል የዚህ ሪፍሌክሽን ይቀጥላል። ነገር ግን በመካከላችን ያሉት የተከበሩ ክቡር አቶ ዶክተር ከይረዲን ተዘራ ለአስቸኳይ ጉዳይ ሊወጡ ስለሆነ እሳቸው የሚያከናውኑት አንድ ተግባር አለ። የማስታወሻ ስጦታ እንሰጣለን። ስለዚህ እሱን ወደ ማከናወን እንሄዳለን። ፕሊዝ
Thank you, Brother Ismail, for affirming some of those commonalities that we should all embrace instead of what divides us. And I think if we can really focus on that one, then some of the challenges that we face will not be there. So there is going to be a small change in our program again, but it's a good change. We are going to have a memorial gift given by our State Minister for Peace from Ethiopia, who is going to share it with the G20, the chairperson, I think, of the G20, and the director of URI Africa. And the people handling that, can you please come so that we can redeem time?
እናመሰግናለን። በመቀጠል ስጦታውን ለመስጠት ስጦታውን እንዲያቀርቡልን ቀሲስ ታጋይ ታደለ የጉባኤያችን ጠቅላይ ጸሐፊ እንዲሁም ክቡር ዶክተር ወደ መድረኩ እንዲመጡ ነው። ስጦታውን የምንሰጠው ለጂ20 ኢንተርፌስ ፎረም G20 Interfaith Forum Association President, Professor Cole Alu. የመጀመሪያው ባለፈው ዓመት በአፍሪካ ህብረት ያከናወነው የመጀመሪያው ጉባኤ ማስታወሻ ፎቶግራፍ ነው። ስለዚህ በቢሮአቸው ላይ እንዲቀመጥ ይህንን አድርገናል። እናመሰግናለን። በመቀጠል ዩናይትድ ሪሊጂየስ ኢኒሺየቲቭ አፍሪካ አምባሳደር ሙሴ እናመሰግናለን። ይህንን ስጦታ እንግዲህ ያቀረበው የኢትዮጵያ የሃይማኖት ተቋማት ጉባኤ ነው። በተመሳሳይ ይህም እንደዛው ነው። የመጀመሪያው አገር አቀፍ የሃይማኖትነት ጉባኤ ነው። እናመሰግናለን። Thank you. Now we can proceed for our program.
Yes. Thank you, State Minister, for that function, and our brother from the Interreligious Council of Ethiopia. So now we are going to continue with the few remaining speakers. Sister Agatha, who is the Executive Director, Cardinal Onaikan Foundation for Peace, and also Chair for Religions for Peace, International Women's Coordinating Committee. Sister Agatha.
She.
Kindly permit me to maintain the already existing protocol, just like speakers before me. Esteemed attendees, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to stand before you this morning or afternoon to reflect on the vital roles of religious leaders and faith-inspired organizations in global, national, and local affairs. As we gather to commemorate the 2024 Golden Rule Day and World Interfaith Harmony Week, it is both an opportunity and a privilege to reflect on the crucial roles played by religious leaders, and indeed all of us, in shaping our world today. With all that is confronting us recently, we cannot but agree that the world is in dire need of interfaith cooperation and harmony more than ever. In societies that are under stress as a result of political, security, or other forms of instability, the warning signs and powerful triggers of unending violence is when we close up to dialogue and collaboration. As an African myself, I cannot fail to draw the attention of this global audience meeting on this African soil to the fact that more than any other continent, Africa is carrying the greatest burden of the world's social vulnerabilities. We can see this in the high level of conflict, insecurity, poverty, human rights atrocities, all resulting in violent conflict, loss of lives, and slow development. Lack of peace and security are the major problem facing almost the entire continent of Africa. Sadly, this problem is mainly a question of good governance and management of our human and natural resources. There is a grave deficit in political structures, which is why the same Africans who are excelling outside their continent remain unproductive at home. Failure in governance leads to insecurity, conflict, and war. This is a major obstacle to the progress and development of our continent, and our leaders must accept responsibility for this sad situation. There are no more excuses, either in colonialism or in foreign interference, for not taking good care of the people. This is the reason why our focus here today is on fostering peace, human dignity, development, interfaith cooperation, and the preservation of the environment, while countering hate speech, violence, war, and xenophobia, particularly in Africa. Religious leaders and faith-inspired organizations, by the virtue of their calling, serve as beacons of hope, guiding humanity towards a future defined by compassion, understanding, and respect for all. Their teachings transcend boundaries, inspiring individuals to go beyond self-interest and embrace the common good. In a world fraught with conflict and division, the role of religious leaders and faith-based organizations in promoting unity and reconciliation cannot be overstated. At the heart of many religious traditions lies the golden rule, as other speakers said, a simple yet profound principle that calls upon us to treat others as we would like to be treated. This universal ethic forms the foundation of peaceful coexistence and mutual respect among diverse communities. We, as religious leaders and stewards of this timeless wisdom, have a responsibility to impart this message to our followers and to the society at large. Unfortunately, religious institutions and leaders have not been given adequate room to intervene and make valid contribution. Preaching and prayers are important, but certainly not enough. In many places, there is this myth of separation of church and state, of religion and politics. This myth for me is not sustainable, since the same persons who are both members of the religious communities as well as citizens of the nation. Without adopting the line of theocracy, where religious leaders take control of government, we need to create deliberate role for religious and faith-inspired institutions in the management of global, national, and local affairs. Right now in Gabon, for instance, the Catholic Archbishop of Libreville has been requested to preside over the national conference for the reorganization of their nation. We pray and hope that he does a good job, but will there be any further role for him and other religious leaders afterwards? We leave that question unanswered. Apart from the need to collaborate with government in a continent rich in diversity like Africa, religious leaders have a unique opportunity, an obligation to promote interfaith cooperation and understanding by fostering dialogue and collaboration among different religious groups. Religious leaders and faith-inspired organizations build bridges of peace and harmony while countering hate speech, xenophobia, and war that divide us. Furthermore, religious leaders and faith-inspired organizations have been instrumental in promoting human dignity and development. Through their charitable works, education initiatives, and advocacy efforts, they uplift the most vulnerable members of society and promote social justice and equality. There is no doubt that religious leaders and faith-inspired organizations contribute significantly to the preservation of the environment because many faith traditions teach the importance of stewardship of the earth. Hence, by promoting sustainable practices and environmental conservation, we contribute to protecting our planet for future generations. As we reflect on the vital roles of religious leaders and faith-inspired organizations, let us reaffirm our commitment to building a world where peace, human dignity, and interfaith cooperation thrive. Let us not forget that it is only when religion is given a role and space at the global, national, and local affairs that we can collaborate effectively in addressing atrocities that is ravaging the entire continent of Africa. Before I take my seat, I reaffirm once more that collective effort is always better and more efficient than when religious communities and government work alone. With this in mind, let us build a brighter and more inclusive world together, both for ourselves and for the generations yet unborn. Thanks for your kind attention.
Thank you, Sister Agatha. Indeed, collective action is the way to go. Thank you so much. I request that you don't look at your watches. In Africa, we don't look at watches. We try so hard to enjoy the moment of togetherness because it's always not so easy to be together. So don't look at your watches.
Okay. እህት አጌታን እናመሰግናለን። ከዚህ በመቀጠል ረቨራንድ ጁሊያ ካዳሚ ኤዩ ኢንተርፌስ ዲያሎግ ፎረም ስትሪንግ ኮሚቴ ሩዋንዳ እሳቸው ያላቸውን ሪፍሌክሽን ያቀርቡልናል። እናመሰግናለን።
Yes, inviting Reverend Julie Kandema, the AU Interfaith Dialogue Forum Steering Committee Rwanda. She's also the Vice President, Presbyterian Church in Rwanda and Rwanda Interreligious Council.
Eminences, honorable leaders, brothers and sisters, good morning once again, and the happy celebration of the 2024 Golden Rule Day and commemoration of World Interfaith Harmony Week. And thank you so much for the organizers who invited me to attend this very important gathering. I would like to share with you a bit of my experiences in the choice of being interreligious, or in other words, in the interreligious ways of living at peace with each other. I'm going to share with you a bit of the experience that I had from my country, Rwanda, a country with a past marked by the 1994 genocide, but also a country that has witnessed a remarkable transformation in recent years. Central to this transformation, you find the roles played by religious leaders and faith-based organizations in promoting peace, human dignity, poverty alleviation, and environmental preservation. Rwanda has made important choices. One of the choices we have made is to identify ourselves as Rwandans, avoiding everything which used to divide us. Ethnic divisions, we avoided them. Divisions based on religion, we avoided them. That explains the rapid transformation of my country. Brothers and sisters in Rwanda, when we talk about religious leaders, we are pointing to various faith traditions, Christianity, Islam, and indigenous religions, and all these prominent religious leaders in Rwanda are included in all those efforts that we are making to make sure that Rwanda continue to progress as a nation and as a country. Friends, I would like to share with you how we promote this great value of the Golden rule. Treat yourself as you'd love to be treated by promoting peace. After the genocide, the religious leaders had a big role to play, and they were the only source of hope through their preaching messages of forgiveness and reconciliation and unity. Through all those efforts, as I speak, in Rwanda, you won't tell who is the victim of the genocide or survivor and who is the perpetrator. Because today we have brought them together, they love each other, they can work together, and peacefully they have forgiven each other, and they live as reconciled people. Friends, there is a lot to say on this promoting peace as a great value in development, but Matthew states, Matthew 7:12, so in everything do to others what you would have them to do. Based on this scripture, we have been able to transmit different healing messages to our people. And the same at the other side, the Muslim friends and brothers and sisters, they have the equivalent to this text, which is used to transform our communities. And interfaith dialogue and reconciliation is a key to peace in Rwanda. We meet several times, I can't count, with our brothers Muslim and other Protestant churches and the Roman Catholic Church. I was so happy when I saw this morning His Eminence, the Cardinal of Ethiopia. I think he has left, because last year I was able to visit, to be at his home with the Cardinal of Rwanda. I would have loved to greet him. You understand how much this choice of being together with the other is very key in the development and in the peaceful situation. So we make sure that we make peace education in our faith-based organizations, and we make it key also. Mediation and conflict resolution is on a daily basis to make sure we reach where we are supposed to reach. Human dignity is also key. After the genocide, you understand, many people were suffering from trauma, and we couldn't do better than bringing, people back to their dignity by providing proper support services such as counseling, trauma healing programs, advocacy for justice, things like that. And again, religious leaders have played a key role in this effort. Human dignity, again, is stated from the Bible, because every effort we do, we read from the scripture. What does the Bible says? What does the Quran says on this great value? Friends, religious leaders have made a lot of effort by providing shelter and support to the needy, especially to children who were left orphans. They have provided refuge and care for the youth who was left and not knowing what to do. Today, we have a youth which has a vision. We have provided service and dignity to our adolescent mothers, young mothers, these girls who were impregnated. And today they are back to a normal life. They have a shelter, they are being educated, and they will realize their dreams because of all the efforts done by religious leaders. Brothers and sisters, poverty, alleviating poverty is a very important value, as based on Proverbs 19:17. Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord. Religious leaders, again, engage in different aspects in poverty alleviation efforts, offering assistance and resources to those in need, and teaching those who need to be taught on how to get out of poverty. There are a lot of examples on what have been done by the country, but also by the religious leaders in economic empowerment programs. Faith-based organizations have implemented a lot when it comes to microfinance initiative, to vocational training programs, which were put in place, to income-generating activities, to empower marginalized communities, and more. Development projects are done here and there by religious leaders, whom we know they know how to mobilize resources, and they also know how to coordinate community development projects. The theme of 2024 Golden Rule is very key in Rwanda and celebrated in different aspects. The Bible Society emphasized the Golden Rule this year, exemplifying by the Good Samaritan selfless care for a stranger. Those who celebrated the Unity Week have went through that. And this was organized by all the Christians in Rwanda. And in such gatherings, we make sure we invite our brothers and sisters from Islam. As I speak, next Saturday, I'm invited by the Muslim community to go and participate in their celebration of Eid al-Fitr. It is something which was not done before the genocide. That is the result of the good choice we have made of being together, bringing our effort together, joining each one's hands for a good development. Last is regarding the environment. This area, I think I presented last time when we were in Rwanda, we are doing a lot together with our brothers and sisters from other faiths, so that we are able to make sure we address the issues of climate change, recognizing the environmental preservation. Religious leaders and faith-based organizations, we meet and mobilize communities to take action in the city and in the rural area. Our tea planting campaigns is very known, and we can't do alone. We will always make sure this Rwandan choice of being together is very key. We will meet and make sure we plant a tree. We teach our children in schools how to plant a tree, how to own a tree, and how to make sure that your own tree survives. Very important for environment preservation. Our Umuganda is very known. It's a monthly community work. If you come to Rwanda on the last Saturday of every month, you will be involved in this community work, whereby we go and do the work, we clean, we plant trees, we make sure that life is back again. And that is very important in our faith community, churches, mosque. Such teaching has its place. We encourage our people to take part in this Umuganda or this monthly community work. Of course, everything is based on the Bible verses or the Quran verses, or the scripture is there to support our work. We make sure that religious leaders encourage our people, but we've also challenges. I'm talking about very good things, positive things, but there are some who are behind when it comes to mindset, to understanding the proper things to be done. So we make sure that we continue with trainings, with teaching, to make sure that everyone will be at the same level of understanding. Brothers and sisters, all these great values, we make sure that we promote them in our daily life. As we celebrate this great day, let us continue to make sure that we take these great values as ours. Let us have a task to teach them to our children, from the very young ones to the old ones. And peace will prevail. In summary, Rwanda's religious leaders and faith-based organizations draw upon the golden rule found in both the Bible and the Quran to promote peace, human dignity, poverty alleviation, and environmental preservation. By embodying these principles in their actions and teachings, they contribute to building a more just, compassionate, and sustainable society. Once again, I thank you, and I wish you to continue to celebrate, not only for today, even when you go back home. May God bless you.
Thank you, our sister Juliet, for such wonderful information you've given us. And we all know that through Agenda 2063 and under the G20, we are being reminded of our past to inform our future. And I think Rwanda is really doing something around that. If we are to learn from our past, then what is happening in Rwanda is really something to learn from.
እናመሰግናለን። ሩዋንዳ የፕሬስቢቴሪያን ቤተክርስቲያን ምክትል ፕሬዝዳንት ናቸው አሁን የተናገሩት። እንደዚሁም የሩዋንዳ የሃይማኖት ተቋማት ጉባኤ እዛ ወክለው የመጡ ናቸው። ከዚህ በመቀጠል ሽማግሌ ኢያን ኤስ አርዴን የኋለኛው ቀን ቤተክርስቲያን የኢየሱስ ክርስቶስ ቤተክርስቲያን እሳቸው ይናገራሉ። የመካከለኛው ምስራቅ አፍሪካ እና እሳቸውን እንጋብዛለን።
So the good news is that this is the last speaker for this session before we take the group photo. And anyone who is outside and wants to be in the group photo, please come nearer. He is called Elder Ian S. Adera, President Africa Central Area, the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints from Kenya. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Look, I realize I'm the only person standing between you, a photo, and lunch. So I'll try to be brief. I also realize you've been seated for almost 3 hours. If you want to, I'll give 20 seconds of my time to you if you want to stand for a moment. Oh, look, I've got friends already. You desired that, right? Doesn't that feel better? Okay, I'm not prepared to give you 25 seconds. You have to sit now. Well, Your Excellencies, Mr. Chairman and distinguished guests, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to take a few minutes this morning. I do represent the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The church has been on the African continent since 1853 with a more focused presence over the last 40 years or so. Our African membership is approaching 1 million members, but we come from a congregation across the world of some 17 million. So here we are in Africa. I am from New Zealand, the most isolated country in the world, but I live in Kenya, and so I bring to this conference that perspective. Much of what I'm going to say merely reinforces what so many religious leaders here assembled are already doing. Now, I acknowledge that and thank you for it. President Russell M. Nelson, who's the president and prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, recently said, and I quote, "We, that's you and I, we're all connected, and we have, that's you and I, a God-given responsibility to help make life better for those around us." And I think we'd all agree with that. Our vital role as religious leaders, individually and collectively, is to reclaim the sense of goodwill and humanity for which each of us.
ሰላም የተከበራችሁ ተመልካቾቻችን ሁለተኛው ዓለም አቀፍ የሃይማኖት ተቋማት ጉባኤ በዚህ በአዲስ አበባ እየተካሄደ ያለውን በቀጥታ ስርጭት የኢትዮጵያ ቴሌቪዥን እያስመለከታችሁ ነው የሚገኘው። እንግዲህ ቀደም ሲል እንደተመለከታችሁት በመርሃ ግብሩ ማስጀመሪያ ላይ የተለያዩ መክፈቻ ንግግሮች ተደርገዋል። አጠቃላይ ዛሬ በተደረጉት ንግግሮች ላይ ስንመለከታቸው ግጭት፣ የጥላቻ ንግግሮች እንዲሁም መጤጣልነትና በሌሎች የዓለም አቀፍ አጀንዳ የሆኑ እንደ አየር ንብረት ለውጥ ያሉ ጉዳዮችን በመከላከል ረገድ የሃይማኖት ተቋማት ሚናቸው ትልቅ ስለመሆኑ ተነስቷል። በተለይም በኢትዮጵያ ያሉ እምነቶች ሰላምን፣ መከባበርን፣ መቻቻልን፣ አንድነትና ሌሎች ማህበራዊ እሴቶችን በከፍተኛ ሁኔታ የካበተ እምቅ አቅም ያለባቸው ስለመሆናቸው በዚህ መድረክ ላይ ተነስቷል። ኢትዮጵያ ያላትን እነዚህን የእምነት እሴቶች በመጠቀም ለዓለም ልትተርፍ የምትችል ስለመሆኗም እንግዲህ በቃለ መጠይቅ ያደረግናቸው ሰዎች ያነሱልን ሀሳብ ነው። በተለይም ደግሞ እንግዲህ እንደምናነሳው የግጭቶችና አለመግባባቶች ዓለም አቀፍ ችግሮች ሆነው በተለያዩ ሀገራት እንግዲህ ዓለም በሰላም ጦት ምክንያት እየተፈተነች እንደሆነ ይታወቃል። እንዲህ አይነት ችግሮችን ለመፍታት በኢትዮጵያ ያሉ ባህላዊ እውቀቶችና ልማዶች እንዲሁም ደግሞ በሃይማኖታዊ ወይም በእምነቶች ውስጥ ያሉ አስተምህሮችና መልካም እሴቶች እንዲህ አይነት ችግሮችን በመከላከልና በመቀነስ ረገድ ትልቅ አስተዋጽኦ ያላቸው በመሆኑ ሁሉም እነዚህን የእምነት እሴቶች በመጠቀም ረገድ የትምህርት ተቋማትም ፖሊሲ አውጪዎችም እንዲሁም ደግሞ መንግስታትም ጭምር በአግባቡ ሊጠቀሙባቸው እንደሚገባ ነው እንግዲህ በዚህ መድረክ ላይ የተነሳው። ከዚያም ባለፈ እንግዲህ በተለይ የኢትዮጵያ እምነቶች የአረንጓዴ አሻራን በማስቀጠል ረገድ ትልቅ አስተዋጽኦ ወይንም ደግሞ ሰፊ ልምድ እንዳላቸው ነው እንግዲህ የተነሳው። በተለይም ደግሞ የዓለም አቀፍ አጀንዳ የሆነው የአየር ንብረት ለውጥን በመከላከል ረገድ የአረንጓዴ አሻራ ትልቅ አስተዋጽኦ ያለው በመሆኑ እምነት ተቋማት ደግሞ ለአዕዋፋት እንኳን ሳይቀር መጠለያ ይሆን ዘንድ እጽዋትን መትከል፣ ችግኞችን መትከል እንደሚገባ በስፋት ባስተምሮቻቸው ላይ የሚያነሱት ነው። ስለዚህ በጥቅሉ ስንመለከተው በኢትዮጵያ ያሉ እምነቶች እሴቶችን በመጠቀም ለዓለም ችግሮች ፈውስ ሊሆኑ የሚችሉ መድኃኒቶች የሚገኝበት በመሆኑ ይህንን በጋራና በርብርብ መጠቀም እንደሚገባ በጥቅል ጭብጥ የተነሱ ሀሳቦች ናቸው ማለት ይቻላል። ብሩክ ተስፋ ይህንን ጉዳዮችን እየተከታተልኩና መረጃዎችን በየመሃሉ ያደረስኳችሁ ቆይታን አድርጌያለሁኝ። በውጭ ቋንቋዎች ደግሞ ሌሎች ባልደረቦቼ የማጠቃለያ ሀሳቦች እንዲሁም ደግሞ የተነሱ ጭብጦች ምን ነበሩ የሚሉ to
motivate individuals, communities and countries to take positive steps for a better Africa. We are not, you and I, we're not elected by the people, but we are selected by God to make a difference for good. I passionately believe that you and I can do that. That collectively, as we come together.
مشاهدينا الكرام، هيئة الإذاعة والتلفزيون الإثيوبي ما زالت تنقل لكم الاجتماع الدولي الثاني للمؤسسات الدينية من فندق هيلتون من العاصمة الإثيوبية أديس أبابا. وركز الكلمات في افتتاح الاجتماع على أهمية السلام ووحدة مؤسسات الأديان والعمل للعدالة الاجتماعية. وذكر وزير الدولة بوزارة السلام خير الدين تزرع في كلمته الافتتاحية أن هذا المؤتمر يمهد الطريق للعمل الجماعي للعمل بالتعاون بين المؤسسات الدينية الدولية والقارية والإقليمية. فلهذا هذا الاجتماع ينتظر منه الذي يستمر يعني ليومين أن يناقش القضايا المهمة حقوق الإنسان والعدالة الاجتماعية وكذلك يعني التنمية والسلام. دور المؤسسات الدينية في هذه النقاط المهمة ستناقش خلال اليوم وغدا في هذا الاجتماع. وهيئة الإذاعة والتلفزيون الإثيوبي تنقل لكم مجريات هذا الاجتماع من فندق هيلتون من العاصمة الإثيوبية أديس أبابا. أشكركم على حسن المتابعة.
Love, hope and faith to work. There will be tangible improvements in our beloved Africa. In fact,